you're going to make mistakes in this business. Try to mitigate them to the effect that you can. Surround yourself with really high quality people that are doing it. And so hopefully you can sidestep some of those mistakes, or listen to Jerome's podcast or YouTube, another way to do that. But when those come up, work through them, rely on your team. Your team is everything. And just always remember that those mistakes are going to go on to earn you the all kinds of money that you want, and ultimately that's how you grow, right? Is encountering that adversity.
As an operator, I know other investors are romanticizing multifamily investing, and I'm looking to learn from other investors' mistakes. I know you are too, and you found the right place. Welcome to Myers Methods Presents Multifamily Missteps. Everybody, and welcome to Multifamily Missteps. I'm your host, Jerome, and I've got the pleasure of having Marc Weisi with me today. Marc, where are you in the country, man?
Yeah, I'm presently in Virginia, Eastern Virginia, along the Chesapeake Bay area.
No way. I'm coming to Williamsburg tomorrow. How about that?
Wow. Okay. Maybe we could, I don't know if your schedule allows, but I'd love to meet up with you.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
for the listeners, they're asking, man, Weisi, where's this guy? Who is this guy? Where is he from? Give him a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. Yeah. So outside of COVID times, I'm normally based in northern New Jersey, the New York City suburbs. And
I
I'm a
knew I heard an accent. I
Yeah.
heard an accent.
Yeah. So you can take the boy out of Jersey, right? But I'm a multifamily investor. Myself and my partner are co-founders of Maple Capital Partners, and we're merging syndicators. We've done our first deal this year and learned a ton along the way.
Wow, first deal. Well, that deserves a round of applause, I think. I mean, everybody's out looking for deals. They're trying to figure out if it's actually a deal, what's COVID pricing. And I mean, sometimes you just got to get the thing across the finish line. So congrats on that. What state, what markets are you buying?
Yeah, so we're focused on the Louisville, Kentucky and Nashville, Tennessee markets.
Smoking hot. It's really difficult to get there. So was your deal in one of those two?
It was, yeah, it's in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh man, I hear good things about that market. I don't know a lot about it, but some pretty sharp people are going in there. So I think you're in pretty good company. And so, you know, this show is all about all the perfection that everybody has on all their deals. And so that deal went flawlessly, and you guys have already sold it and made 10x on your money, right?
Not quite. We took over in September, and it's been it's been a lot of interesting seminars, but it's been great so far.
Wait, you took over? What do you mean you took over? Took over the property
Right, took
from
over the
the old
property.
owner.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, wait, did he take over from a syndicator when he was an LP?
Well,
Or did that happen?
that did happen. Yeah, that's a unrelated story, unrelated property, but that did happen.
All right. You got to give me the skinny on that. What do you mean you were an LP and you took over a deal when you had a GP who brought you in?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was back in 2018, and I can kind of set the context of where we were at that point. We were just starting to learn about multifamily. Both my partner and I had partnered on a couple of deals in the residential space in northern New Jersey, which was our target market, our home, really, at that point. And we were ready to kind of transition on to bigger and better things. So we were looking at where could we learn from somebody while we're earning. So earning while we're learning. And we didn't know about syndications yet. We didn't know about the legality and all of that stuff, nor how to vet a sponsor for that matter. And we decided to, we had been speaking with one group who was based not too far away, and we decided to go with them, to invest with them as LPs.
Okay. And so you said you didn't know how to vet a sponsor.
Not properly, no.
So what does that mean? So somebody's out there like, vet a sponsor. I mean, are you a veterinarian, or like, what do you mean when you say vet a sponsor?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for us as investors on the passive side, the first and foremost concern is really who is running that deal. Because you could have the most smoking deal on paper in the world. But when it comes down to it, it's about the execution. And do the people that are running the particular deal, have your best interest in mind, and do they have the experience to allow them to achieve what they're saying they can achieve? And that's basically the vetting of the sponsor, is looking first and foremost at their track record, and then only once you're comfortable with them, looking at the deal itself.
Okay, and so what did you find out after you got into the deal that made you say, "This is in trouble, we gotta step in on this thing"?
Yeah, so probably it's the trouble started 6 months or so into the deal. The sponsor had gotten a call from the mortgage company saying, "Hey, one of these, it was a 5 unit, so one of these 5 units is going into foreclosure and is going to be sold, and you no longer will own this." And so that kind of kicked off all kinds of alarm bells of how did this happen? We've been current on our mortgage payment and everything like that. And it turns out that the title company didn't do their job and extinguished the old mortgage. And as a result, we temporarily, thankfully, we temporarily lost the one building, which the title company eventually went and bought back and made us whole with.
Whoa. So what happened to the money that went to pay off because there's a payoff, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah, so we never found out where there was a long, drawn out settlement, and ultimately we did get damages for that whole period. Because think about it, I mean, if you have a business plan to, do a value add on 5 units, and now suddenly you've only got 4 units to operate, but you're into it for the same amount of capital, it makes things very difficult servicing that loan and so on. And so that was only, frankly, the beginning of the trials and tribulations on that particular deal. But that was the first alarm bell that went off that said, okay, something wasn't done correctly here during due diligence on our side as well as on the sponsor side.
okay, and so did you step in at that point? And you're like, oh, this is a misunderstanding. Of course, this guy knows what he's doing. We're going to keep rocking.
Yeah, absolutely. Gave them the benefit of the doubt. They had their plan in place. They were turning 2 of the units, 2 of the 5, once they got the one back. And, we were off to the races. It was probably another 6 months before we started asking questions about, okay, well, we're supposed to receive these distributions. We're supposed to receive our K1s, our accounting of what's going on at the property. And basically communication had shut down, had all but shut down. And so at that point, we started asking some more serious questions about, okay, were we defrauded, all of that kind of stuff.
And so what happened? The guy just vanished because things weren't going well? I mean, come on, you give me the cliffhanger.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry to leave you hanging there, but this group that we had invested with was doing a number of these projects throughout the city, and they had just gotten overextended, and so certain properties just fell by the wayside. There just wasn't any oversight or accountability, and so as a result, about a year and a half into holding this thing, we had 2 units turned. We had 3 units that were vacant and not ready to be rented, and all of the budget had been expended. And so at that point, myself and my partner, who was another LP on that deal, we jumped in with the blessing of all the other LPs, and started to put the actual business plan into motion and do what they were supposed to have done from the beginning.
So do you do a capital call at that point? How does this deal get to the finish line? Because I assume you renovated all the units and
Yeah,
executed the full business plan.
nothing was standard about this deal, but I would say as far as the capital to finish the units, yeah, it was a capital call to the remaining LPs. Thankfully, I had a good reputation with them, had some rapport with them. And so they were willing to kind of put their trust and faith in me that I would, do what I was supposed to do. And so, after the course of, I would say 9 months, and this is probably late last year, so the winter of 2020. So COVID second wave is just underway, and so it's a difficult time. I was going there literally 2-3 times a week to check on the contractors. I was sleeping in the property to try to get some work done myself there. It was really down and dirty guerrilla type tactics to get it done.
What? You're sleeping at the property? Come on.
Yeah, sacrifices. But ultimately, after like I said, 6 to 9 months, we were able to get all 5 units turned and rented. I actually ended up staying there for a little while. I was there for about 2 months, just seeing out the last unit. And so we got them all rented, and then since then we've just been paying down kind of some of these accrued liabilities that had amassed during the time that this wasn't operating. So, no matter what's going on with the property, if you don't have all the renters in there, whatever, the government still wants their money, right? These taxes still pile up. You still have the water bills. You still have these kind of uncontrollable expenses that are running, and so we're in the midst now of it's stabilized, but we're in the midst now of paying down some of those accrued liabilities.
You got your operating costs, the fixed costs, you got taxes, your mortgage, you got all of that stuff. And a single family home, you have to pay that stuff if nobody's in the unit because you're at 100% occupancy or 0% occupancy. But in a multifamily, if you get down under 70%, you might have to start digging in your pocket to start taking care of some things, depending on how you bought the deal. So that is wild. So you take it over. Do you buy the GP out? Like, what happens on that piece? Like, how do you guys restructure the actual entity, and what's all the background on that?
Yeah, this is very much a relevant topic, because that's one of the things that we're doing now is negotiating kind of what that's going to look like on the sale. Because it's great that we went in, we did all the hard work, but it's going to be all for naught if we don't, if the operating agreement remains as it is, and there's an unequitable split. And so that's what we're going through right now. We're confident that we can, come to some amicable end or result, and hopefully we can be able to sell this in the new year, and all move on from our lives, hopefully a little bit wiser, and with I guess not too much of a hit on our capital.
So is the GP still in the deal even though he went dark? Or
Yeah,
she?
so it's actually two GPs. One of them all out abandoned the asset, and one of them kind of stuck around, but wasn't able to help to the extent that he wanted to, because imagine we weren't the only deal that they had kind of raised for, and so they had a number of these plates in the plates spinning here. So he was overextended, and I kind of came in as the functioning GP.
Okay. So what changes have you made to your system to make sure that your your dollars don't get kind of hijacked again? Because nobody likes a capital call, and nobody likes to send their money in and then not have any communication about how the property's doing. So
Yeah, this was a masterclass in kind of like what not to do as the sponsor of a deal, as the, some people call it general partner, sponsor, syndicator, all these are synonymous. So yeah, we learned a ton through that process in terms of, how to do right by investors. And so we kind of used that confidence to ultimately move forward and take down our own deal, because we thought, okay, if we can turn around a deal where we've got basically no budget, and 40% of units up and running, we should be able to, get our own deal if it starts off on the right foot. So as far as the original question, though, what have we changed? Now as LPs, because we still do invest as LPs, we only partner with people that we have established relationships with, where there's the track record there, not only of doing deals, but also going full cycle on deals. And so, it's a lot more thorough of a vetting process on the sponsor side.
a lot of people want to be profitable multifamily operators, but lack the knowledge, deal flow, experience, and capital to be successful. They often try to overcome these challenges out of order, slowing or eliminating their ability to get the next deal done. We have developed a framework that allows them to gain the knowledge they need to find profitable deals. When they use our system, they create time and location freedom, as well as the generational wealth they desire for their family. The Multifamily Kickstart program has proven to be the fastest way to establish credibility and build a profitable apartment portfolio. Hop over to jeromemyers.co to find out more information. And what do you look for in a sponsor at this point? Because you throw out the keywords, track record, full cycle, all these things that people, kind of forget about when it's hot and heavy, because, you can go get in 10 deals and not make any money for anybody in the end, because the big pop is on the exit, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and there's a great book in this, and it's Brian Burke, Hands Off Investor. I always recommend that to anybody who's looking at getting into the space first as a passive investor, and then also is useful to us as sponsors of deals because what matters to investors matters to us. But what I look for, yeah, I mentioned track record. I mean, I want to know that they've been at this, for a number of years. I want to know what their background is prior to, being in multifamily. I think there are very few people that start off in this realm. So I'd like to know about kind of what makes them tick, as well as references. I think, frankly, that's one of the best things that you can do is talk to references of the sponsor, other investors that have invested with them. What has their experience been like? Preferably, like I said, an investor that's gone full cycle. So they've invested with them, they've seen them execute, and then ultimately dispose of the asset. And also one thing that often gets overlooked, if it's possible to get in touch with their service partners. So, their lender, their insurance broker, people that they work with on a day to day, because that'll be a really good source of information as to the character of this person and how they operate.
Yeah, man. The multifamily world is one where everybody says good things about everybody. And so it's going to be really interesting to see if you get the feedback that you actually get when you reach out to those folks, because nobody wants to, I guess, lose business because they didn't say something favorable. But there are people who have had experiences where they've decided they're never going to do business with that person again. So I think that's what you're looking out for when you reach out for those references. So Mark, I mean, you got another one for me? That one's wild. I haven't heard anything like that so far where LP stepped up, become the GP, kind of grab the thing by the horns, get it done, save the day. I mean, do you have a superhero cape back there somewhere? What's going on, man?
I mean, it just comes down to, putting your head down and doing the work when it's, required. So I think a lot of the investors in that deal were really upset, and rightfully so. A lot of them, I've grown quite close with, and I saw it as kind of my responsibility, being that I was able to, with my, a little bit of real estate background to step in. So if not me, then who, so that whole thing. But as far as other kind of obstacles that we've faced, or seminars, as Rod Cleef calls them. Yeah, I could talk about another deal that we did right on the heels of that. Once we figured out that that deal was going not sideways, and we kind of turned it around, that gave us a little bit of confidence, and we started to look out. Okay, let's do a deal on our own here, and that obviously we had a little bit of a learning lesson along the way there.
So now we're in Louisville, Kentucky, and you can conquer the world because you just figured out this other one, right? And you made it all work, and you go buy the deal, and it's perfect, man. All the money comes in early, right? There's no negotiations on the PSA. They sign whatever you send. Everybody that's there is there, and they're all paying their rent. And now you just got to market it and get out of it, right?
Not quite. I wish it were that easy. It's not all the mailbox money is not all it's cracked up to be. But I'm glad for your group here, and this ongoing series, because I really hear a lot of people out there preaching, about how easy it is and how simple it is. But there are a ton of people that have learned, the hard way, some of these mistakes. So on that particular deal, we took over. We had done all of our due diligence. We had, gone to the comp properties. We had researched the area really well prior to us even looking at this deal. And we moved forward once we got the financials. We got through the physical due diligence, and then upon takeover, first month goes by without issue. We get into the second month, and we're seeing that, oh, okay, what we thought were maybe two people that were having payment issues now balloons to 12 people on a 32 unit property. So fairly significant economic vacancy there.
Ouch. And so, did you find that they were being dishonest with their financial reporting, or they were testing the new guys?
I think it was more of testing the new guys. The seller, I don't blame so much, as he had just transitioned over to a new property manager, and I don't think they had wrapped their hands around what was going on with the property at the time. And so some of their financials, I don't think necessarily told the whole picture. And so when we took over and assumed that there were, like I said, kind of two delinquent tenants, it ended up being a little bit larger of a population. And so we've worked through that since, and we're still working through it, frankly. Anything with this multifamily stuff is, it's not, snap the fingers and it's over. It's, these solutions take time. But we are working with our property manager to receive assistance locally for a lot of these tenants who are going through financial hardship. Definitely want to sympathize with those who can't afford it simply. But then there are other people who maybe see this as an opportunity, the change of management, to kind of take advantage of the system. And so we'd like to, over the course of the next 6 months, any problem tenants, maybe, part ways with those, and then get some good financially stable tenants in there.
So how'd you find the 32 unit?
Yeah, so it's through a personal connection. So we always are looking to grow our network, and I would say that's great for anybody who's starting off in this space. Is It's very difficult to find a deal. It's I would say comparably easier to find somebody who may have a deal themselves, that they would be willing to bring you on in some capacity on. So we had grown our relationships over the last 2.5 years or so since kind of being in this multifamily realm, and one of those connections was a guy who was looking to transition out of a few of their assets locally, and so we made an offer, and it worked out.
Wow, the power of network. So it's a true off-market deal, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not something a broker says is off market and then they charge you more than what it would be if it was actually on the market.
Right.
So, are you did you continue to use the property manager that was already on site, or did you get a new group?
Yeah, so we swapped them out. We did so I talked about vetting the sponsor. As a sponsor, you're, to a large degree reliant on your property manager to be your eyes and ears on the, on site there, day in and day out. And so just as much as we as passive investors are vetting the sponsor has to put probably even more time into vetting their property manager. And so that's what we did, found a property manager that we were happy with, and have been working with them to mitigate some of these issues going forward.
Love it. And so, I guess the final question I have, maybe one more after this. You know, do you have local presence there? Because you're in Virginia, but by way of Jersey. So, how do you get a deal in Kentucky funded?
Yeah. So one of the reasons why we looked there is we wanted, we wanted to look at markets back 2 years ago when we were starting to establish our target markets. We wanted to look at markets that where we could get a direct flight from our, our home base. So that definitely met that parameter, as well as a number of other economic stuff that we look at. But as far as boots on the ground, we had to form a lot of those. So we formed partnerships with other investors there locally, as well as we ended up forming a pretty good bond with the inspection company that we had used. A couple of the individuals there were there when we were on site doing due diligence, and so we've been kind of using their services to go by and do kind of a little bit of a check and balance on our contractor work that's getting done there, as well as our property manager. The upkeep of the property, talking to tenants, seeing what their reception is like, and being our eyes and ears there when we're not able to be there. And we are still flying out there on a quarterly basis as well.
So, did you use agency debt or community bank or bridge? How'd you get this thing done?
Yeah, we used agency debt. We had the benefit that, at least on paper, was stabilized, 90% occupied for the last 90 days. And so we were able to get some really attractive terms on that debt.
And the business plan here is renovation and raise rents or what?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that occurred to us, we always make it a point to, when we visit a market or a sub-market of property that we're looking at, we try to walk around the area to get a feel, because it's one thing to drive through a neighborhood, but it's a whole different thing to walk the actual blocks and streets. And so in walking the area, we saw that this is a really, really healthy market, and super close to a bunch of amenities, national retailers, Starbucks, all that stuff. And so we're like, okay, well, this clearly has a lower quality tenant base for the area. It was surrounded by complexes that were charging, well above what we're charging, $300-400 in excess of that, more than what we're charging. And so the business plan was kind of proven for us.
Okay, and so you're gonna upgrade the property. And what kind of gap are you seeing between market rent and where this property is?
Yeah, so average rents were around 775. We're now renting out new units at 925 and a $50 water fee. So effectively about $200 more, and that's on the kind of lighter terms. So we're going to continue to kind of test the market, but as far as going into it, that far exceeds what our pro forma underwriting was.
So those 12 people who aren't paying slash vacated did you a favor.
Yeah, in some ways, yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
always
but it'll
mindful.
spend your capex too quickly too. So there's
Right, you
trade-offs.
always wanna, yeah, you always wanna manage that. It's kind of, at least in our case, where it's a new property manager that we're working with, and we're out of state. We wanted to kind of toe the line and kind of balance, not having too many vacancies, at the same time, while, turning enough units to kind of get us to that pro forma that we had underwritten.
And is your PM actually managing the construction and handling that for you, or you had to figure that out on your own?
They are, yeah. So one of the I guess really more important vetting criteria that we had for them was that they would oversee construction, and they've done this before on a number of other assets that are of this size, and so we were comfortable moving forward with them for that reason.
Man, you sound like the bank. Do you have previous experience of a property this size with this business plan? I remember getting hammered the first time I said I wanted to buy a deal, and I said I didn't have any experience doing the thing. Mark, this has been amazing, man. Thank you so much for jumping on with me.
Thanks for
Last
having me.
question is, what words of wisdom would you have for the listeners? You had to pick
Yeah,
anything.
absolutely. I mean, as you could tell from my story, made a ton of mistakes. We'll probably make a ton of mistakes going forward. I mentioned earlier Rod Cleef, who's someone I look to in this space. He doesn't call them failures; he calls them seminars. And I really like that. I think language matters. So I would say, you're going to make mistakes in this business. Try to mitigate them to the effect that you can. Surround yourself with really high quality people that are doing it, and so hopefully you can sidestep some of those mistakes, or listen to Jerome's podcast or YouTube. Another way to do that. But when those come up, work through them, rely on your team. Your team is everything. And just always remember that those mistakes are going to go on to earn you, the all kinds of money that you want, and ultimately that's how you grow, right? Is encountering that adversity.
Beautiful. Mark, this has been a great episode, man. I've learned so much. And I'm excited for you guys because you're not scared, right? You're getting in there, you're not giving up, you're going to fight through. And I think that is the game, right? This is about lasting. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So kudos to you for jumping in and, creating your future. Because if you wait for somebody else to do it, you might not like where you end up.
Absolutely, man. They say smooth seas make not a skilled sailor. So get out there, take action.
You're getting your stripes. Hey, to the listeners, hopefully you got something out of this one. I did myself. So, until the next time, the pack's with you. We'll talk soon.
You made it to this juncture, so you really love what we shared on this episode of Myers Methods Presents Multifamily Missteps. Do us a favor, give us a 5-star rating, give us a review, and share this with somebody who's interested in multifamily investing. Until the next time, the pack is with you.